Emily had never been one to believe in ghosts or the supernatural. Growing up in a small, quiet town, she was used to the occasional creaky floorboard or the wind howling through the trees outside her window. But that night something was different. It started with the knock. At exactly midnight, Emily sat up in bed, her heart racing as she listened closely. One sharp knock, then a pause. Then another. Slowly, deliberately. She glanced at the clock, 12 a.m. Her eyes darted to the door of her room, which stood slightly ajar. It was dark outside, the only light coming from the moon that hung high in the sky, casting long shadows on the floor. She hesitated, unsure of what to do. Maybe it was a neighbor, she thought. Maybe someone needed help. But the house was old and the walls were thin, she would have heard footsteps. She knew she should check, but her body refused to move. The knocking came again. 3 sharp, deliberate knocks. Emily's breath caught in her throat. There was no way it could be anyone from the neighborhood. She lived on the 2nd floor. Terrified but compelled, she slowly stood up, the floorboards creaking beneath her. She walked cautiously toward the door, her hand trembling as she reached for the knob. As she touched it, the knocking stopped and the air in the room grew heavier. The silence pressed in on her like a suffocating force. She opened the door, but the hallway was empty. Nothing was there. The house was still. Her heart pounded in her chest as she slowly closed the door again. She tried to convince herself that it was just the wind. Or maybe she had imagined it. But then, as she turned to walk back to her bed, something caught her eye. The window, which she could have sworn she had locked before going to bed, was now slightly open. Just a crack. He froze, staring at it. The temperature in the room had dropped, and the softest sound, the sound of something dragging, whispered through the stillness of the night. Emily had never been one to believe